everyone, Steve here from Grimwood Hollow. So, one of the most often asked questions I get when people find out that I did special effects for movies is, do you still have any of your screen used props or memorabilia from the movies you worked on? Well, most of what we work on, whether it's props, makeup effects, creatures, it's, we make it, it's used on the production, and then we really never see it again unless it pops up in a museum, up for auction, or in some rich person's collection somewhere. But a lot of times they're not even saved. Sometimes they're even trashed, unfortunately. So rarely do we ever get to keep our props and our creations. But I do have a few treasures, and today I'm going to share with you some of my screen used props that we made for the 1994 film Stargate. Now, really quick, I want to apologize to a group of you out there, and you know who you are, for taking so long to get this video out. I think about 2 years ago, I promised that I was going to eventually do a video like this, and unfortunately, just due to things in life and tons of stuff going on, I wasn't able to dig up what I needed to put this video together until now. So I know some of you jumped over and probably started following our channel specifically for this video, and if you stuck around, thank you so much for being so patient for this, and I want you to know that this video is for you guys. So first, I'm going to show you some film clips and photos of some of the special effects props that we made for Stargate. And I'm going to really quickly talk a little bit about how we created all of those props. Then, I'm going to open up this box behind me and show you what's inside. So, you ready? Let's do this! So the first prop you see of ours was the military gear transport. We built it mostly out of aluminum and diamond plate steel, and it had an electric motor to drive it forward and reverse. This was the cart that Colonel O'Neill and his team used to transport all of their equipment through the Stargate. We also created this joystick that straps to the soldier's arm to look as if he's driving the cart. We machined, molded, and cast most of these parts out of urethane, but also used some off-the-shelf parts. This cart also featured the secret compartment that Colonel O'Neill used to smuggle his bomb. We also created a bunch of the military gear and props like these handheld scanners for surveying the planet. This was another prop where we combined off-the-shelf parts with some custom parts that we milled and sculpted. We bought a ton of military surplus gear like cases, electrical panels with gauges, and radar dishes. Then we built dozens of custom props by kit bashing parts together. This was a prop we fabricated using aluminum, custom parts, and some surplus pieces. It was supposed to be for analyzing samples. And this is one of the military cases we created full of knobs and gauges that Kurt Russell and his team interact with. There's one quick shot where you see them scanning and analyzing the crystal minerals, and we actually had to create thousands of these crude gemstones even though you barely see them. And here's the simple trick to how we made them. Take a piece of aluminum foil and crunch it up to create facets. Fold the sides up to create a dish like this. Spray in a mold release, then use a polyester resin which is brittle and mix in a color pigment of your choice. Pour in about a 1/4 inch thickness, let it set up, pull it out, and smash it into a million pieces with a hammer. The crude gemstones will have some facets from your foil mold. Quick and dirty, but it did the trick. For these ceremonial drinking bowls, we molded a carved wooden bowl and cast them in a black urethane. They were supposed to look like they were made from giant seed pods.
That's the one we have to shut down.
These were some of the most ridiculous props we made. Yep, all of the fake Fifth Avenue bars. They brought us cases of these candy bars, then I had to meticulously remove them from the wrappers. I then made a silicone gang mold on 10 of them, sprayed the molds brown, and cast dozens of them in urethane. Then I had to carefully place them back into the wrappers and seal them up. They had to be fake so they wouldn't melt in the 120-degree temperature of Yuma, Arizona. Oh, and we ate Fifth Avenue bars until we were sick. This was a pretty fun prop. It was the Egyptian tray that Ra's guards used to carry the bomb. This was a shot before the finished paint job. So the dish we sculpted in foam, then molded and cast it in fiberglass. The Egyptian statue handles we sculpted in clay, molded them, and cast them in urethane. The rods were just PVC, and you can actually see them flex in some of the scenes because that bomb was really heavy. And finally... Alright, let's open this box and see what's inside. So these are my actual screen use movie props that we made for the film Stargate. These were used in a scene, if you remember the film, when they get to the planet of Abydos, I believe it was called. There's a tribe of humans there that are mining a special mineral for Ra that he uses it as alien technology. And all of the people of this community are using these tools to mine all of those crystal minerals. But at the end of the film, when this tribe revolts against Ra and his false gods, they use all of these tools as their weapons to fight against all of them. So these were the days before computer animation, really. I mean, it was kind of just starting to pick up from Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, the success of those and the computer animation. But we were working on this film in, I believe it was 1993, and they decided for these giant scenes of all these this colony of people, this tribe of people, that they were really going to use extras. They really didn't add extra people in the scene with computer animation. It was almost all real live actors and extras.
The final battle sequence would require the 1,200 extras dressed in heavy robes to charge over the dunes in the harsh Arizona heat. For some shots, you need the real thing.
And so we had to create literally hundreds and hundreds of these prop tools for all the extras to use in these scenes. It was crazy. Although, you know, these probably aren't the most iconic props from Stargate, that's for sure, and not the most iconic props we've ever worked on. But it was an amazing gig. You know, it was great to be a part of this movie. I loved the film. We made a lot of fun different props for the movie, but these were the ones that were probably the craziest for us and the most memorable because of just how many we had to create. I'm going to show you, I'll keep talking about them a little bit. I'm going to hold up each one and move them around a little bit, bring them close to the camera so you can check them out. And later I'll do some better close-ups where I'll really kind of get into how we created these and you get a much better look at them. I'll start off just by holding up a few of them so you can check them out. We were working off the production designs from an amazing artist, production designer named Holger Gross. He created all these designs and amazing artwork that we were working from to create a lot of the props that we did and stuff. Now these we just kind of had some general sketches of, which was kind of fun because I was able to design the look of a lot of the branches and the handles and everything and the way they were sculpted and the way they looked. On this film, again, I was working with my buddy Rick at RCP, and it was me and him and just a couple other guys, and he was kind of just letting me be the lead sculptor on it and really design the look of all of these. The handles were mostly sculpted in a plastiline clay, and I sculpted all the texture into it, they weren't supposed to look necessarily exactly like real world, or wood from Earth, I should say. They were still supposed to have a little bit of a fantasy element to them, or an alien wood quality to them. So they were organic, they look like branches, but there's sometimes some weird patterns and shapes to them that doesn't look exactly like maybe branches, that we see here on Earth. And then the heads of most of them we sculpted and carved out of a microcrystalline wax. We just thought we'd be able to get kind of that chiseled obsidian look really cool in the wax. Then we wrapped them in leather and twine and stuff, and we actually molded that right into the silicone too. It was all molded as one piece, and then we could cast them up out of resin. We couldn't spend a lot of time painting these because we had to make hundreds of them, and so we literally just spray painted color into the silicone molds, cast the resin in there, and then when you pull the part out, it already has the color on the surface of it. So we were just using some basic browns. We often use a black resin, so it was already black to look like obsidian, and just try to minimize the amount of work. But there were, I believe, 6 different weapons that I sculpted. Rick worked on a couple of these obsidian heads too. We both kind of tag team some of this stuff. But yeah, there was like 6 or 7 different styles that we sculpted and molded, and then we had to cast up about 80 of each of them. So we ended up with somewhere around 600 of these weapons or something that we had to cast up for this film. It was insane. We were just pouring resin non-stop in these giant silicone molds for weeks and weeks and weeks to produce all of these, so that the hundreds of extras could be running around in the scenes with their tools and attacking all of the false Egyptian gods. Let me get a close-up of the head of this one. Some of the weapons, we wanted them to have a clear kind of look to them, which was really cool. So we made separate molds of some of these heads, and then we cast the head part first. Then we take this piece, put it into the overall mold, and then pour the opaque resin around this to create the handle. And it was tricky. There was a lot more steps in there. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about that later. But that's how we created these really awesome looking weapons that have the clear heads with the chiseled and chipped look to it, almost crystal-like or something. I thought those were really awesome. There's this one and one other one I'll show you really quick. This was one of the largest ones. It was a double-headed tool or axe. This one also had the clear resin cast head that we did with some color swirled into it. I'll get some shots with some light behind it so you can really see how cool these look. And these are heavy. These are probably, I don't know, 15 pounds or something like that. So for those extras to be out there in the hot Yuma, Arizona desert running around with these things was probably crazy. But yeah, it was cool. And this was another style that I sculpted. Another organic branch looking handle, and another chiseled obsidian looking head. These really, they were supposed to resemble something that maybe like cavemen would have created, or very old ancient cultures. We create these to use as tools or weapons. I'll show you a little secret here. Maybe I can get a better close-up of it, but sometimes for fun, I like to hide little things in my artwork. And I've definitely done it on a number of projects for movies, also theme parks. And we're not allowed to sign our work. It's not truly our property, our work. So sometimes just for fun, I'll hide a little something in there, just as like my little stamp on stuff. But this is pretty crude. It doesn't show up really well, and I'll get a better close-up of it. But on this particular weapon, I hid a kind of smiley monster face right here. You can see his eyes, nose, and mouth right there, just so I had a little goofy smiling creepy monster face hidden in the handle of this one. Just to be a dork, because I like hiding stuff like that. It's kind of crazy, out of the hundreds and hundreds of these weapons that we made, I saved 8 of them for myself. I was able to nab 8 of them. And I couldn't even tell you where the rest of these weapons ended up. Who knows, they might be in a prop rental house somewhere. They might have gotten trashed. Maybe they're in people's private collections, but thankfully, I was able to nab 8 of these. I was only on set one time for Stargate, and that was delivering some of these weapons. And it wasn't actually to Yuma, Arizona. I never went on location there. They were filming all of the interior scenes of the pyramid, all of those really cool interior scenes where Ra was with his tomb and all that. They filmed all that here in Long Beach in the old Spruce Goose Dome, where Howard Hughes' giant Spruce Goose airplane was housed. There was a really huge dome, and they relocated the Spruce Goose. When they did that, it left this massive dome open, and they used to rent it out as a soundstage for movie productions. And so Stargate rented it and built the interior scenes there.
The filmmakers soon realized that no soundstage existed that had enough floor space to mount the huge sets and to stage the grand floor effects. So they decided to convert this clear span aluminum dome, the largest in the world, into a temporary movie studio. Located at California's Long Beach Harbor, it was built to display Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose, the world's largest airplane. The sets in this vast geodesic dome covered more floor space than 4 football fields. 300 workers spent 6 months installing 700 tons of rigging pipe and readying the dome for filming.
And so while they were filming there, we were finishing up these props, and I took a giant box of them down there. I got to see the sets, deliver a bunch of these, and yeah, it was a really cool experience. And then later, these were all transported to Yuma, Arizona, and some of them were brought back, and eventually got my hands on a couple of them. But yeah, I had 8 originally, and then 2 of them I used to make a really cool birthday gift for my my ex-business partner and friend Ron. I'll show you a picture of that, but I just thought it'd be kind of cool to use it in this crazy birthday gift for him. So that was fun. And some of these weapons I actually used in the Haunted Vineyard when I did my professional haunt. There was a room that we had called the Armory, and we had a few of them on display in that room. But yeah, we had a number of movie props and secrets in the Haunted Vineyard. We had all the costumes from the movie Ghost of Mars. We had these weapons that I made for Stargate. We had all the armor from the Army of Darkness, and a number of things from theme parks and some other movies and stuff too. So there were fun little Easter eggs in the Haunted Vineyard. So now, why don't we take a look at some close-up shots of these. I'll really get into it. You can see some of the details a little more. I'll talk a little bit more about the design and how we created them and fabricated them, and then you guys can get a much better look. So here we go. All right, so now let's take a much closer look at these weapons. Out here in the sunlight, we can definitely see a lot more of the detail in all of these guys with the sculpted branches and the obsidian and crystal looking heads on these things, and all the twine and leather and the form and detail in the sculpting. And we'll go through each one of these and I'll kind of break them down, talk a little bit more about how we made them, and show you a little bit more of the details. This is one of the big 2-headed axes, and you can see this one was a clear cast that we swirled some black dye into, and it gave it a really cool look. Let me see, I'll hold it up to the sun. So you can see when I hold it up to the light and get the sun shining through it, it looks really cool. This clear cast resin with the black pigment swirled into it, just, I don't know, I thought it looked great on some of these. And it gave them a variety too, with some of them being the black obsidian and some of these having this clear crystal look. Just made them really unique and really fun looking on camera. So again, with these branches, I sculpted them all out of a plastilina clay. I used saran wrap, covered the clay in saran wrap, and then used my tool and dug into the saran wrap and in the clay just to create these kind of wood grain texture lines and stuff. I sculpted all the form first and then went back over it and added all the texture and all the lines in it. There's little wood knots and stuff in there. There's a little monster face I sculpted in there. Let me flip this one over. You can see some more of the same kind of simple texture and stuff going on. Again, these didn't have to be amazing sculptures. They're seen from a decent distance and there's hundreds of them on film. So they just had to read good on film while people are battling with these weapons. And here's some of the twine that we put into the sculpture and molded it with it. Again, the ones with the clear resin heads, these were tricky. So we would do a full mold on these weapons, but then we did separate molds on just the weapon heads. So when we had these clear ones, we would cast these separately first out of the polyester resin, clear cast resin, with the black dye pigment in it, swirled into it. And you can even see just the tiniest little bit of saran wrap, plastic wrap hanging out right there. That's because we would wrap these in a saran wrap, the clear heads, put them back into the full mold, cover them in Vaseline and stuff, and then pour the black resin, opaque resin, in to create the handle and the leather and the twine around and over the top of these clear heads. Then when we popped them out, we would take an X-Acto knife and cut away the saran wrap and any resin that leaked over, pop the saran wrap off, and this is what you're left with. And it worked really well. It was a pain. It was a lot of work. Knowing more now, there's probably better ways that we would have went about this, but for the time, it worked really well. You can even see there's a cut line, a little scribe line right there where you can see we were being quick and sloppy with the X-Acto knife, just cutting off the saran wrap and stuff. But yeah, that's how those were created. Here's this guy. You can see the details on this guy. This is one that got wrapped with some real leather. So the way we created this one was a little different. This one, we always kept the head separate from the stick handle. The way that it overlapped and fit in this was just a little bit trickier. It's almost like a slingshot type of branch that goes out and around it. So we just thought it'd be cool for this one to mold it separately, put it on there, and attach real leather and twine for these. And every one of these, we did multiple variations with black opaque heads. Some of them had the clear crystal looking heads, and then they got different paint variations too, just to switch them up a little bit and make them as unique as possible. I really liked the organic look of this branch. This was one of my, I don't know, one of my favorite sculptures. The end of it had kind of a big knot looking end. That's the pour spout though. You can see where the extra resin was cut off from the pour spout. And this is kind of fun. I haven't looked at these in quite a while, and I remembered I also put a little face on this guy. So you can see, let me see, it's hard to do one-handed. Right here, the eyes, nose, and kind of upper teeth of a little skull monster face. I'll hold it up here. You can see another little monster face I had to put in there because I'm a dork. But again, I loved hiding stuff like that in here. And you can see some of those fantasy, whimsical shapes in this branch that I was trying to keep in mind when creating these, again, to make them not 100% Earth-like branches and give them a little bit more of a fantasy feel to them. So anyway, that's what I tried to do. I know that a lot of it pretty much still just looks like branches, but try to give them some weird forms and shapes and stuff in there. But I really liked that guy. I liked how that one turned out. All right, can move over to this guy. Another one that had the obsidian looking head. We put the leather right into the sculpture and molded it in. You can see the sculpted detail on this branch. Very similar. There were some fun spots like this here, where it's almost like I wanted it to kind of look like the bark was peeled away a little bit, exposing some sort of different texture of wood underneath it there, which kind of gave it a little bit of a different look than the rest of them. And again, some weird swirly patterns and shapes in that guy. This was the small handheld pickaxe weapon that was really cool. It has a great shape to it. Again, a organic looking branch. And the obsidian chiseled looking head. This was another one where we kept the head of the weapon separate from the handle, and we would attach them, glue them, and then wrap them with leather and twine for those guys. There's some more of the sculpted detail on this branch and handle, and you can see how we really got in here and worked the head of this one, the wax, to really try to give it those cool chiseled broken obsidian look. To the head of this thing. And this guy, I think, was probably my favorite of all of them, or at least this guy and this guy were definitely my favorites. This one had kind of more of a knobby handle, and I sort of liked how I did that with sort of the lumpy, knobby looking branch on this. It just made it stand out a little bit different from the others, gave it kind of a unique look. And I really liked the triangle pointy axe head on it and the leather wrapping that we did. This was another one that we did a clear cast on. I'll hold it up here in the sunlight. You can see really cool in the sunlight, the clear resin with the black pigment swirled into it. Just gave it a really awesome look. So again, nothing too fancy with the detail necessarily. It was more about the form and then just doing a quick texture on it so that it would catch some shadows and some paint and look more organic and wood and branch-like. But yeah, I really loved the look of this one. This one also has like a split branch at the top, so it's supposed to look like it's nestled between a forked branch at the top of this stick. And yeah, I just really liked the way those turned out. And there's the whole group. The other small one is on the wall in the bedroom. So this is 5 of them, and the 6th one is hanging on my wall. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed seeing these screen use props that I made for the movie Stargate. I know, once again, they're not the most exciting props ever from that movie. That movie was filled with amazing artwork. But you know, we got to be a part of it. These are still part of movie history, and they mean a lot to me. They're some of the only memorabilia I have from my time doing special effects for movies. And I mean, I was just a kid. I was only 20 years old when I worked on these, and it was fun. It was a heck of a ride, and I think they're still cool. I think they're awesome little props, and they're fun to have, and they're, you know, great memories and a great story. And I just really hope that you guys enjoyed seeing these and hearing about how we created them. So thanks again so much for watching, and everybody take care. See you soon.